Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on MisplacedStraws.com, where music comes to life. And my guest today is the founding member of the band Rock City Angels. You may not recognize the name, but they have a huge history that includes, among a lot of other things, Johnny Depp playing guitar for them, rumors that their label sabotaged them so Guns N' Roses could succeed, and a whole lot more. They just released the previously lost original mixes of their debut, Young Man's Blues, and here to talk about all of it is bassist Andy Panik. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me here. That sounds great.
My pleasure. And before we get into the incredible history of the band, let's talk a bit about the record itself. Now, Memphis legend Jim Dickinson, who worked with the Stones and Big Star and the Replacements and a million others, did the record with you guys, and then ultimately Geffen trashed his mixes. What was it about?
They fired him.
Yeah, unbelievably so. What was it about his version that you guys preferred versus what ultimately came out?
Well, his version is it's more pure, you know. I mean, it's, you know, the other version is great. They're both great, and they both got great review. Well, the original got like 3 stars in Rolling Stone, and it's got different performances, but his is just more pure. When you listen to his, you can see that the other one is sort of transparent.
Yeah, and well, I've had the original one for years, and now I've listened to this new one. You really do hear a difference. You know, it almost sounds like a different band playing it. Yeah,
it's got a lot of additional musicians, like the Memphis Horns, really great guys that have played on, you know, lots of people's records. Jerry Kerrigan plays on it. He played with Elvis. He plays percussion. Charlie McCoy also played with Elvis. He's a harmonica player, stuff like that. Wayne Bennett was a guitar player that played on one track. He played with Bobby Blues Bland, the blues guitar player.
Yeah. So now let's talk a little bit about the story of the band for a bit that led you guys to Memphis. You're a Florida band. You made your way out to L.A. While you're there, you pick up another guitar player from Florida who ends up joining the band for a little less than a year, and that was Johnny Depp. How did he join the band, and what was he like as a bandmate back in those crazy days?
Well, that's the Johnny Depp factor that we've all come to learn how to live with. It's just different, you know. What was he like then? You know, I got to be honest. The guy was, you know, I played with millions of musicians, and most of them have got problems or assholes or, you know, just hard to deal with, drug abusers. And he was, like, really humble and, like, he was, like he would say, like, good things about you and stuff like that. Complimentary.
Yeah.
And he was really nice. And I'm not just saying this because of who he is now, because I don't have any contact with him. I mean, I know people that know him that are still good friends with him from his other band, the Kids, Joey Malone. But Johnny was a great guy. No doubt about it. Probably people would like me to say that he wasn't, but, you know, he was a starving artist.
Honestly, it's good to hear that he was a great guy. You know, that's...
Yeah, they don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, you know, you think about it. He's this big, giant name now in the acting field and musician also, and he's done so well for himself that you would and then I look back at, God, he was so nice to me, you know? He really was. I mean, he really... You know, I can see why the like directors and stuff would want to work with him.
That's always good to hear, honestly. But now, when you guys got out there and you really started to break in LA on the Strip, it was just around the time that Guns N' Roses was doing their thing. Was there a competition among you guys? Who did you guys see as your big competition on the Strip?
Guns N' Roses had been already signed when we got there. Mm-hmm. We got there in June of '86, but they were in the studio recording, which would ultimately be Appetite for Destruction. Mm-hmm. Change the world of rock and roll as we know it. Nobody knew that was going to happen either. Kind of the same thing with Johnny Depp, who knew these things. But Guns N' Roses was, when we got there, they were already signed in the studio, and they weren't even playing out on the scene anymore, because they wanted to keep a low profile. Mm-hmm. I think they did play some shows under an assumed name. I forgot the name of that, what it was. Fargan Vargas or something. Fargan Bastards. And it was just an assumed name, I guess. But but everybody knew their reputation, and I read somewhere that they said that we sounded like them. A lot of bands in that, we fit right into that sleaze rock thing, which I realized when I got there was so full of all these, as opposed to what was going on there prior to that was heavy metal, millions of bands. And so this sort of changed it, where all these bands were into, I've realized there's three bands, the New York Dolls, Aerosmith, and Hanoi Rocks. Mm-hmm. Hanoi Rocks being the newer of the three. And you had bands like Jet Boy, Faster Pussycat, Guns N' Roses, Junkyard the Hangman, Jet Boy, all these bands, Sea Hags, that were heavily into those three bands, as we were also. And the punk thing mixed in with punk rock. Mm-hmm. So we fit right in. And from the very first show at the Scream Club, which is a legendary club there, the management there wanted to be our management, and it just snowballed from there. And like I said, I've been in so many bands, and never have I ever been in a band that just like took everything was the green light, everybody liked it. Wherever we went, it took a long time, we were together like 6 or 7 years into different phases, me and Bobby, before we got signed. But once we got to LA, we fit right in, and people wanted to represent us.
Well, and that's why the band was really on an upward swing. When you guys were in LA, everybody was noticing you.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, you were killing it live, too. I know there's some video that's come up on YouTube recently from shows, around that time. And, you could see just the attitude that you guys played with at that time.
It's sorry. There's some other stuff out there, too, man, that's it's lost. Well, there's a show we played at the Music Machine. They offered they wanted to sell it to us. I think our old manager got it or something. There's another TV show we did that's lost, Us Performing Live, some underground show. But yeah, we really had an edge, and Bobby was just a great front man. It was different. He was different, and that vocally, he's like, I wrote a lot of the, as you know, singers around that time, and still to this day had a very high pitched scream. Nothing against it, like Rob Halford, and later Sebastian Bach, and even Axl Rose. But although Axl Rose had both, he could sing really, really high and really, really low. But in the singers we liked were like the old blues singers like Howlin' Wolf, but then the Jim Morrisons, the David Johansons, the Iggy Pops, who had the baritone, and that's what Bobby had. And so that was great, and that was different. But he liked it like that, that's what he was. And plus his stage persona, and then the fact that we mixed in blues and punk rock to
Mm-hmm.
the hard rock umbrella.
And there have been a million stories as to why, when it came time to record, Geffen sent you guys to Memphis, where a band like Guns was able to record in and around L.A., and it really changed the sound of the records. From your end, why do you think Geffen put you guys out in Memphis and not in L.A.?
Well, like I said, we worked a long time to get our formula down, because we started out as a hardcore punk rock band in 1982 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, called The Abusers, and we opened up for Black Flag, the Circle Jerks, TSOL, Tex and the Horsets. So we had this punk rock foundation to the house, to the formula, and so when we added that to the glam, which we got into later, and then blues and stuff, we had our own formula, which it took years to develop, the songwriting. And then when Geffen got interested in us, they just circled right in on the blues, and they just punched that button. And before you knew it, we were in Memphis, the home of the blues and soul. We did soul too. I mean, I can remember doing a recording, Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding, one of the first demos we had for Geffen. We did a great version of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now, once the record came out, you guys hit the road, but got little to no support from your own record company. Again, there's a million stories behind that, but do you have any insight as to kind of why the label buried you once you hit the road? Yeah,
that really sucks, man, because, you want to, tour your ass off when you're such a young person, grow up wanting to live the rock and roll dream. We got to tour with Jimmy Page. That was obviously huge. But that was a month of that, 6 weeks altogether with interviews and practicing. And the first show at the LA Forum was the culmination of years of work, and that was great, awesome. That was the highlight of it, the touring. And then we went on a small tour with Joan Jett for a couple of shows. That was great. And then the third one with Georgia Satellites for a month. That was great too. Back to the clubs. But then they, for some reason, wanted to start working on the second record. Yeah. And that's when, we started doing demos and stuff. And Bobby started getting back into heroin then. And that really pissed off Tom Zutaut, who'd had enough of Guns N' Roses doing drugs. And so he took it out on them all the time. But there's nothing he could do about it because, it's such a monumental record. And paying Geffen's bills and lining his pocket, everybody at Geffen. So they couldn't do anything about it. So he took it all on us and Bobby, because Bobby was on dope. He had been on dope since he was 19, on and off, for various reasons. It's really a sad story. Yeah. The rock and roll is littered with sad stories.
Well, and you mentioned all those demos for the second record. You guys recorded a ton of stuff, and
we did about
the label
40, 50,
got rid of all of it. Yeah,
and they turned down every one. This is 3 different. We did demos in 2 different states, 2 different countries, and they just never could hear that song. And it just didn't make sense. Those are some of the best stuff that we ever did, and people have come to really enjoy them and like them online.
And after that, when the band broke up after Geffen dropped you and all that, what did you and Bobby do? Did you guys, go to other bands? Did you stay together? There's a little period there where you kind of...
I did another band, this band... I've been playing in various bands ever since, and the first one was a band called Smash It to Pieces with my good friend Jeff Johnson from Jason and the Scorchers. and they were like the hottest band in LA. And that broke up, and then I got my own band, Rumble Train, and we got that was with Mike Barnes and Doug Banks, the two guitar players from Rock City Angels, Young Man's Blues. And we got a publishing deal with Cherry Lane, so that held us out for about a year, but we never could get the record deal because of the whole grunge thing. Even though what we were doing was like Black Crowes blues, and they seem to have, the grunge didn't affect them, they still went. I mean, we were doing that before they were doing that, and they were just an alternative alternative band called Mr. Crow's Garden. We were already playing the blues band. But it's universal, the blues is universal. You don't got to be black, a man or a woman or whatever, play the blues. You got to live it.
And you guys definitely did, that's for sure.
You woke up in the morning and hear the blues. Here they come.
Now, you eventually did reunite. I mean, I remember I got my first copy of Young Man's Blues was a reissue that came in late 90s. You guys got together in various forms in the early 2000s, and then unfortunately Bobby Durango passed away. If Bobby was able to kind of clean up and get things going, do you think that you would have stayed and tried to get something going again?
We did. He did clean up, but see, he had already had hepatitis C. So it wasn't anything. It was a death sentence. So he couldn't do anything about it. He went to the doctors and all that. But me and Bobby, directly after the Rumble Train thing petered out, we had a band called Death Rattle. But that was in Hollywood, and but we broke up after one show. But it was a really good band, and then in 2000, we got back together, me and Durango and Jimmy James, one of our original guitar players who played on the Glam album, and we did an album called Use Once and Destroy, which is more goes back to our punk roots.
Now, now that this record's coming out and kind of the interest in the band is, spiking up again with the release of the original mixes of Young Man's Blues. Do you ever see a time where, some combination would get together with a different singer and play some of these songs live?
Well, I think it would, me, Mike Barnes, and Doug Banks, that would be great, the three remaining members of Young Man's Blues. Unfortunately, our drummer, Jackie D. Jukes, passed away also. This past year. It's just really another sad tale. He was a good guy, and I could see us, me and Doug and Mike, getting together with maybe a name singer, or even someone unknown. I mean, it seems like the fan base is there, but I don't know.
Yeah, because I think
like that to happen.
Every few years, I think this band kind of spikes up a little bit and gets in the public interest. And with the release of these mixes of the record, it sounds better than ever. Definitely would love to see some of this stuff played live.
Yeah, it would be great. Often it's with a new singer and a drummer and maybe some, special guests or something. Named Johnny Depp.
Well, he's back, with Hollywood Vampires, and he did the record with Jeff Beck. So, you never know. Well, we've been spending some time here with Andy Panik. The band is Rock City Angels. The new release is Young Man's Blues, the original Jim Dickinson mix. And if you miss just straight up rock and roll, this is the record for you. Definitely check it out. Andy, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
It was a pleasure talking to you too, Jeff.
And hopefully if you guys can get a couple of shows going, we can catch you live.
That'd be awesome. That would really be great.
Great. Thanks a lot, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Okay, my friend, later.
Yep, bye.